Hello everybody and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name is Serge.
My name is James.
And I don't think I can win the £50,000 anymore.
Wow, that's a big call. Tell me why.
It wasn't a good week. Basically. It wasn't a particularly bad week. The interesting thing is, I don't think I have a bad team.
You don't think you have a good team?
I just think the gap is getting interesting and getting bigger and bigger. How many points did you score this week, James? And I have to caveat the listeners, we haven't really
Stop worrying about the gap. Yeah, the gap at the top's getting bigger, but these guys are using another 5 transfers.
No, but I'm not comparing myself against them. I'm comparing myself against other good, experienced managers. And yeah, I think it's good to let the listeners know that we haven't really spoken about Sky off camera much this week. I don't even know how many points you scored or didn't score. To tell us, how many did you score?
Would you feel better if I said 32 points?
Well, yeah, but you didn't score 32 points.
No, I didn't score 77 points.
Yeah,
which was a decent week actually, all things given.
Okay, 77, so 18 more than me. I got 59.
77 points. Gator flop again. There's a few of us in this club.
Listen, mate. Patricio did nothing much better for me with a late goal conceded as well.
A lot of us would have had the same thing this weekend, actually. Yeah. And maybe even if there's a few Matt Ryan owners out there, maybe as well. Andrew Robertson was brought in for Virgil van Dijk, 4-pointer. Tariq Lamptey with a nice little tackle bonus, but obviously he's got a yellow card. Should have been a clean sheet as well. Should have been a double point haul, 4 points. Dallas, 7 points.
So let me stop you there. Patricio,
right
Robertson, Lamptey, Dallas, we're toe for toe.
Yep.
Toe for toe.
I'm going to guess you've got Michail Antonio.
I certainly do.
Yeah, 8-pointer. Did you captain Jack Grealish Friday night? Yeah,
certainly did.
6-pointer. Do you have Christian Pulisic?
I certainly do.
2-pointer. I don't think you got Bruno Fernandes.
I have James Rodriguez.
Okay, so this is where I'm beating you, is it?
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes. 4-pointer, but 4-pointer because he was captain for me, right? So who did you captain Saturday?
Well, on Saturday...
Because nearly all the captains missed on Saturday, didn't they?
Mohamed Salah.
Yeah. So was it 4-pointer, was it?
4-pointer.
Yeah. And then the front three doing the business for me, the Kane and Son combo with Kane captain his man of match award, which I think was clinched by his header off the line at 0-0 rather than his assist for the goal. Meant that he outscored Son by 1, so 23 points between the two of them, Kane and Son. Raul Jimenez was my captain Sunday. I'm guessing you captained James.
I did captain James. Obviously I had Harry Kane. So Sterling was a disappointment for me, 2-pointer. That was one of the big differences between us, really, where I think you could almost say, yeah, Jimenez captain returning and then Son versus Sterling.
It's such fine margins, right?
Yeah. Can I ask, what was your game week rank?
It was about 30,000 or so, I believe. I'll tell you, it was 31,000. I'm now inside the top 10k. 9,3,734 is the overall rank on 517 points.
Okay, I had a game week rank of 117,000, and I was only 17 points behind you. It's not huge, it's one captaincy return.
Yeah, it looks worse than it is.
But my overall rank is 21,000, which I've got 488 points. You said 517, right? So 30 points between us. It's not a lot. Okay.
No, of course it's not.
Okay. I feel a little better. Maybe not quite.
So you should, mate.
Maybe not the 50,000, but I might get the second prize.
If James Rodriguez had knocked in a decent haul at Southampton, you're level, basically, right?
Yeah,
so
okay.
It was. Do you know what?
But having said that, the other part of my statement was I do think I have a decent enough team. And I've got options and flexibility. Like I can go now Sterling to Kevin De Bruyne very comfortably. And I've got a little bit of money kicking around in the bank as well. Yeah.
Okay. This was a good week to have a bad week.
I suppose, yeah.
There weren't many scores knocking about in the over hundreds and stuff of experienced players. So it was a good week. I think in a few of my leagues, I was sort of second or third for the week, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of us have got similar teams, let's be honest.
Yep.
So it was a good week if you had a bad week. It was a good week for me, generally. 77 points is just shy of where I'd want to be for like weekly average. So, but this week it was a good total.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not too... Okay, I'm not as disheartened as I possibly coulda, woulda, shoulda.
So what's your overall?
21,000.
It's minor at this stage, man. Genuinely.
But I do want to have a couple of good weeks and make sure I've got some good captaincy coverage.
If you captain Raheem Sterling on Saturday and he goes off, you'll be well ahead of me, mate.
But would I captain Raheem? I probably should captain Raheem with Sheffield United versus Salah against West Ham.
I haven't got Salah either. Salah against West Ham, either of them. I haven't got either of those two players who are obviously powerful, right?
Remind me who Harry Kane and Heung-min Son are playing against, because Son could really pop off.
They're doing the job for me in the next two. It's going to be a very interesting debate, I think, once we go beyond the West Brom fixture that Tottenham have in match week 8. What then? And particularly for those with Kane and Son, or even those interestingly just on Kane, because there's clearly a strong case at the moment that at 1.6 million saving, it might just be better to go with Son than Kane.
Yeah.
Even though Kane's in the best form he's been in for 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. One certainly to come back to. My instinct at the moment is I would lean towards keeping Son and using that money very productively somewhere else. Because I don't see, we spoke about it a lot on the Planet FPL podcast yesterday about even in FPL, how often would you want to captain these Spurs guys up till sort of the end of December? It's not often. Now in Sky, because of the single game days, Spurs in Europa League, there's more opportunities going to pop up, but it's not going to be a desperate, I think, I've got to have Spurs coverage. You could conceivably go without Spurs coverage between game week 9 and 15, I think.
Yep.
Which would be brave. You probably still want one, but there'd be a strong case for going with Son to hold money back over Kane for those who are on the double up. And of course, the others who are on Kane are just probably going to stay on Kane, right? Probably not going to make the downgrade. So can Son match him? And then obviously you've got the extra 1.6 million to do what you want with it. Having Son allows greater flexibility of sort of getting in together Bruno, Kevin De Bruyne, Salah. But you can get all these guys in much easier if you've got Son rather than Kane.
True. Very, very, very true. Let's do a couple of quick talking points and then we can get into the questions where some of the talking points are covered anyway.
Yep.
Quick roundup of this week's upcoming captains for you, and also not necessarily for you and me, but also any ideas on who the best captaincy options are, because obviously we don't have the best players from all the best teams potentially.
Why not?
That's true.
I wonder where he was going with that. So Wolves Palace Friday night, and we'll get onto the Southampton Newcastle problem shortly for next week.
Jimenez for you.
Jimenez for me, yes, and I think Jimenez would be the best shout.
Patricio for me, because that's the only one I own. I mean, people that own Zaha.
I think
in favour of Wolves,
if I
that's
owned,
it over a Palace. That's it.
If I owned
sure.
Jimenez and Zaha, I think I would go Jimenez. If I had Patricio and Zaha, I would give it some strong thought to go the other way, maybe. But Wolves, I don't concede many, right?
No.
I think I would go with the Wolves guys.
Yep. Saturday, you've got Liverpool against West Ham.
Yep.
And you've got Manchester City have Sheffield United, and even Chelsea have Burnley.
Yeah, it's interesting that as well. So only the 3 games, but 3 decent teams to pick from here. I wouldn't rule out for the likes who've got Pulisic or Werner. Don't completely discount it. I mean, as I've got right now, I'm probably bust on Pulisic. The only Liverpool asset I've got is Robertson. I don't have a Manchester City asset. I wouldn't consider Antonio even if he was fit. We'll get onto solutions for that in a moment as well. What we have obviously got Saturday is the benefit of the Manchester City team news. And the plan all along for me was Jimenez to Kevin De Bruyne, as long as he's in that team when City plays Sheffield United.
And you're still sticking with that?
That's going to be the plan, yeah.
Sure.
I know I'm going to want him back. There is a clear...
He picked up a couple of assists yesterday.
There is a clear opportunity. Yeah, there is a clear opportunity here to get him back. If he's not in the team, I'll probably skip it and come back and revisit it. Maybe even not even till after they play Tottenham.
Right. Quite
possibly, which is match week 9, because obviously City's next to is Liverpool and Tottenham. But you always feel you can captain De Bruyne in almost any fixture anyway. The Liverpool game is going to be nicely covered by the fact Tottenham play West Brom that day, so you don't need to worry about that. I think when Tottenham play Man City, United play West Brom that day, so I'd probably likely go to Bruno. So I wouldn't be sticking the armband on De Bruyne until beyond game week 9 anyway, if he's not going to play this week.
Right.
So if he's in the team, Jimenez to De Bruyne. If he's not, I might wait.
I'll probably leave it on Raheem Sterling ahead of Mo Salah. I don't want to captain Salah against us, and I actually think defensively we've been good and solid. So not overly concerned with that. I think I'm going to stick it on Sterling.
By the way, I might buy De Bruyne even if he's sub.
Mm.
I just wouldn't stick the armband on him, obviously.
Sunday, Tottenham assets against Brighton, no doubt. I'm going Harry Kane because I don't own Son. Are you going to stick with Harry Kane as well?
You can't not at the moment, even though even in the other fixtures there's good potential assets. Bruno against Arsenal, Calvert-Lewin against Newcastle, Villa Southampton could be quite an open game. So there are potential decent assets in the other games, but yeah, you've got to go Spurs Sunday as it stands, haven't you?
I should ask the question because I didn't check. Who won man of the match on...
Kane,
yeah.
as I said, yeah.
Because of these, Kane for man of the match, because he's making last-ditch tackles in the box and making clearances off the line, and he's all around the pitch and he's all action. I feel like he's much more prone to that man of the match.
I think he's got most headed clearances, most blocks, and most clearances of forwards defensively.
Yeah, he's mad at the moment. I feel like that gives him the edge on the man of the match.
I mean,
so,
essentially,
yeah.
You could make a case. I mean, had Tottenham not won the game, it would have been a Burnley player would have deserved to win man of the match. Probably one of their defensive ones, like Tarkowski, for example. But he's had the two key contributions in an awful game of football, right, with those two headers. So yeah, it's fair enough.
And on the Monday night, obviously, some people may have Jamie Vardy or Leicester asset, Leeds asset kicking around. I've got Stuart Dallas. He'll be my captain.
Yeah,
I don't own anyone else from any of the other matches.
I'll be on Dallas as well. I think Vardy will be the best choice. It's the sort of game, I don't know how it's going to go, but it could go well for him, and it would be worth the chance. I think if you've got him, most won't because of the circumstance of his injury and stuff as well.
Correct.
But a few might go back and buy him Monday. Potentially looking at obviously getting some gains there, although their fixture run is still a little bit choppy for a couple more weeks in my opinion, so I won't be considering that. If for some reason you've landed with Lookman or Pereira in your team, I wouldn't rule either of them out, actually. I don't think many people will, though. And I think if you've got Dallas, it's still going to be a safer way to go.
Indeed it will.
It's a 5-pointer, isn't it?
Yep.
We'll take it, we'll move on. I think is the most likely here.
You very briefly there mentioned the question to do with Antonio, who may be injured. We have a question on him in the Twitter question, so we can talk about that young man when we get to those Twitter questions
The man with the fights.
Yes. What about the announcements on fixtures and televised fixtures? Because it feels a little bit half-assed because there's still a bunch of games that still could be moved. A lot of people are worrying, I would say worrying in inverted commas, about the Southampton Newcastle fixture. Very few of us have coverage of that, but it might not be the only game on that Friday as it stands.
Correct.
So,
though we've never had a Friday game at 5:30 or 6 o'clock before, have we?
No.
Ever.
No.
Do they want to do that? I think
give me a decent excuse to close the office at 4:30 that Friday night.
Oh, what if it's West Ham and Fulham?
Well, whoever it is, I just feel like we'll just kick back and relax. Friday afternoons are quiet anyway.
Well, there are 3 potential games that could also be moved into that time slot that we're speaking of on that Friday when Southampton play Newcastle. They are Brighton against Burnley. It's someone against Leeds, isn't it? I think. Oh, I've lost my fucking thread here. Palace against Leeds or West Ham against Fulham. Those are the 3 that could in theory go into that time slot.
So 2 of them need to move because we're not going to have all 3 games at 3 o'clock on a Saturday because they want to televise all of the matches. Yep. The question is where they move, and one of the slots available is the Friday.
I think what we'll have is what we had in game week 4. I think we'll likely have probably 2 games at 12 o'clock on the Sunday.
Right.
I think that's the most likely thing that will happen here. One of those games at 12 o'clock on the Sunday, I think, is highly likely to be West Brom against Tottenham. That fixture will definitely be on the Sunday because of obviously Tottenham's involvement in the Europa League. Same applies to Arsenal against Aston Villa as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I've said about Tottenham, although it's still scheduled for the Saturday, will cover off your Manchester City versus Liverpool problem. That game is definitely going to be on the Sunday. It will almost definitely be either at 12 o'clock or this 7:15 slot that they've been having, right? My instinct is that Southampton and Newcastle will stay as a standalone. We expect an announcement on what's going to happen for next weekend's fixtures only, in terms of what times they are, before Friday. It should be this week. It could even be by the time we've released this podcast. But I imagine it'll probably be Friday, like it was Friday just gone as well. Don't expect an announcement for anything beyond that yet. They want to fix up what's happening for this international break and then get a longer term agreement for what's happening afterwards in terms of, is it going to be $4.95 a game? Are they going to scrap pay-per-view? Whatever it's going to be. So they want to get an agreement for match week 8 this week. Then there's going to be a further agreement for a longer period, because obviously it's the last international break for a long time as well. So the Saturday in match week 9, which is quite interesting, we now know that Chelsea-Sheffield United is locked in for the Saturday. We know that Everton against Manchester United is locked in for the Saturday as well. The interesting alternative one to potentially consider will be Everton play Fulham. We don't know what day that's going to be yet. It could be Saturday, Sunday or Monday. You need to be conscious of that if you've got Everton ownership or if you haven't got Everton ownership. My thoughts are on the Southampton-Newcastle problem at the moment is that Michail Antonio has probably opened up a door for me. Rather than having to make a decision, my initial instinct was I would have had enough to go Pulisic to Danny Ings, but I really like Chelsea's next 3 fixtures, so I don't really want to make that move anyway. We haven't got confirmation on Antonio's injury yet, but we think it's probably going to be long enough at least to keep him out of the Fulham fixture, when a lot of us who got him at the start
fill your boots
was
time,
eyeing him up
it?
to go, well, as long as it's not the same day as Tottenham West Brom, I'm probably going to captain him.
Yeah.
That was the thinking. And the most likelihood at the moment is that fixture will probably stay the Saturday, and West Ham on paper would look, ironically, the best potential choice.
Why, ironically, we're the greatest team in the league. We haven't lost a game in 4 games.
It's just that a lot of the other big clubs are going to be playing the Sunday. It's as simple as that, basically.
Yeah, I get it.
So I can't go, if I go Jimenez to De Bruyne, which as long as De Bruyne's fit and available, I think even if he's sub, I'll make the move, I think. And then, like I said, I'm just not sticking the armband on him. I wouldn't have enough money to go from Antonio to Danny Ings. And there's going to be a lot of people, I think, in my position who had planned this Jimenez to De Bruyne move, then can't go to Danny Ings. Danny Ings, blindingly obvious, is the best choice for Southampton versus Newcastle.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out to Reese SkyFF, at Reese SkyFF, because his question was what to do with Antonio. And we are answering it in a roundabout sort of way. And he has the best name around, does Reese, because my other son is Reese as well. So shout out to Reese. And none of this Reese Oxford, Reese James, R-E-E-C-E, proper Welsh, R-H-Y-S. That's how you spell it, boys. None of this Reese Nelson, R-E-I-S-S. We want the Welsh spelling.
Okay, mate.
So, Antonio, you've mentioned a certain other player instead of Danny Ings.
Well, maybe Danny Ings isn't the best choice in that fixture. Che Adams is 7.9. It's ridiculously cheap. Essentially, of all the forwards, if you grouped them all and you'd say, do you know what, I'd consider him at some point this season, he's the cheapest. Patrick Bamford's like 8.2, Neil Maupay 8.5, Ollie Watkins 8.6. There are, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago and compared it to the Pookie and Abraham problem last year. This year, there feels like there's escapes. I would have enough money to go from Che Adams to Bamford,
back
Watkins,
to Antonio
or
when he's fit after 2-3 weeks
back
or whatever.
To Harvey Barnes, Antonio,
Jack
or
Grealish, Ross
defensively,
Barkley.
Gabriel. I'll put my hands up. Big pass in tier 2 again at the weekend.
My question to you was going to be on Che Adams. What's the next transfer? Because it's the one thing that we always look at with Sky. If you've got a transfer in, what's the next transfer? And you've kind of sort of answered that. It doesn't matter because you've got a number of different options that you can go to in between 7.9 and maybe 8.3, 8.4, which is how much you might want to spend.
For me, this game, if it's the standalone, feels like one we should go for. I think it's the possibility of what could be. I think if we look at Newcastle, we'd go Wilson, St. Maximin, okay. The only thing that would change that is there's a possibility a few weeks down the line that Palace Newcastle could land on a single game day as well. Now, for someone who's got Gator, I don't care. For other people, you might want to care and have a look further down the line and consider that. So it's Southampton for me. Because of the amount of shots that Newcastle give up, it's more than any other team in the league at the moment, and that will probably still be the case by the time we get to the fixture, I should imagine. we should really be targeting a forward. There could be a school of thought that the likes of Vestergaard and Bednarek could be picking up passing tiers and a clean sheet defensively. You're absolutely right. Even the Wolves guys picked up passing tier against Newcastle at the weekend, and they just generally don't. So you could consider them defensively. I wouldn't consider the midfield guys. Armstrong 7.1 would be so punty.
Yeah.
Considering where we felt pre-season about him, it would feel very punty now.
I think there will be a time that I'll own Stuart Armstrong this season. When he gets into a bit of consistency.
Possibly.
In form. I still think in both games he's priced well, and I like him as a player. I'd like to own him, but yeah.
So I think it's Ings or Adams. Now, on the face of it, in this game particularly, as opposed to say FPL, if you don't need to save the money, don't save the money. Go for the best guy. And Danny Ings is obviously the best choice. However, stats so far this season, Ings versus Adams. 13 shots each. 8 shots on target each. Adams 12 shots in the box to Danny Ings' 11. Adams 5 big chances to Danny Ings 4 big chances. Their XG is Danny Ings 2.9, Che Adams 2.86. XA, Danny Ings 0.67, Che Adams 1.39. Actually, on the metrics, Adams is actually outperforming Danny Ings a little bit here. Bar what the difference in points is. Danny Ings scored 2 goals against Tottenham, and he got man of the match by default against Burnley in match week 3. And in the 3 fixtures since, Che Adams has been outperforming him. Danny Ings is dropping deeper and deeper in games, you know. It's Adams the one that stays highest. Now, it's erratic. It's going to probably tear your hair out a little bit. But for the saving, I think it might be worth it. And it's probably the solution for people like me that are, rather than trying to force in a move that I wouldn't want to make, like Pulisic to Danny Ings, Che Adams in for an injured Antonio is almost a no-brainer. Now, for other people who are perhaps sitting there at the moment with a front line of, say, Salah, Son and Kane, which is possible, it's a bit of a mare because you don't really want to sell any of them. True. However, the advice on that would be, I think, take Salah out. Get Danny Ings in Sunday for Aston Villa. Danny Ings into the Friday. You can go immediately back for Man City, but depending on the way the game week 9 fixtures fall, you may not need to. It might be that Southampton play this Saturday. Liverpool-Leicester is a possible for the Sunday, even though it's not been announced for TV. It
becomes a 3-for-1.
And you might get a 3-for-1 Southampton on Liverpool.
Yeah. And
the Liverpool game you're missing is Man City away.
Yeah, that's one that even the boys at Hub highlighted as a potential 3-for-1 that's going to be coming up. So I'm very interested in keeping my eyes peeled on that one there. The big caveat to that move that you're talking about, Antonio to Che Adams, is if you're like me and you, who already have 3 strikers, then that Jimenez to Kevin De Bruyne move becomes essential to make that possible.
Correct.
The Antonio too. So keep an eye on what your formation is, because at the moment I can't make that move, and I've got no intention of Sterling or Harry Kane or Salah leaving my team. So I might need to find a different solution.
What you need to think of when you go Southampton here as well is, I think for those I'd mentioned, say the Salah move would be quite straightforward. Hold the money back, go back when the time is right. For the rest of us, we probably need to work out where the escape route is. Because other than a potential Friday night or a Monday night in match week 11, there's probably not going to be another case of use for this Southampton asset. Now, it could be, and you have to consider this, particularly I think if you go...
captaincy. Obviously, you get the games. Correct. For captaincy.
Correct. Particularly if you go for Adams, could it be that he provides outstanding value and it allows you to go the reverse on what I've just said about perhaps Son over Kane? Can that facilitate Kane and Salah by his side? De Bruyne, Fernandes, Pulisic, Grealish, for example, in midfield.
Well, look, my team at the moment is Kane, Salah, Pulisic, Grealish, Rodriguez, and Sterling. Now, Sterling turns into Kevin De Bruyne. So if you assume then I would have Kane, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, James Rodriguez, Jack Grealish, Christian Pulisic, and then Che Adams would be my alternative to Michail Antonio. So yes, it gives you... That's why I say when I looked at my team, I still feel I've got a good team and a good structure there that can pop off any week. So yeah, a lot of interesting options there, James. Let's get through some of these Twitter questions. There's
Just
been quite a
one
few.
final thing on Southampton.
Go on.
Following the Newcastle game, which is obviously game week on the Friday, their game week 8 fixture against Wolves, which hopefully we'll know by this weekend, could fall on the the game week 9 fixture could fall on the Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. In game week 10, they're locked into Manchester United on the Sunday. So the chances are that there's gains to come back off that, where a number of teams between the Newcastle and Manchester United fixtures are also playing 3 games when Southampton play once, which is a tricky fixture against Wolves. So it's just a hopping on and gain, jump for jump. I think my thoughts at the moment will be something like working Calvert-Lewin in for the Everton-Fulham fixture, depending on what day it is in game week 9, or James Rodriguez if I can't get there. And then I'm going to have more money in the bank to shove Adams, I think, defensively. The one I think, if you're really stuck and can't get to the Saints boys with the Antonio problem to consider from the value perspective, is Gabriel, who I have to put my hands up and go, those 3 fixtures pre the international break, I couldn't work out if they were legit on the passing tiers or not. His passing numbers are phenomenal. Even the change of system doesn't seem to have affected him. Mm-hmm. So Gabriel was really solid at Arsenal. You're going to have to go through some painful fixtures first, but he's beginning to look like the standout Arsenal coverage for the season.
I do have a little bit of regret not going to Gabriel and going to Robertson because of what it would have allowed me to do, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. We need to move it, keep it moving.
Yeah, no regrets.
Let's get through some of these Twitter
questions.
questions.
I don't regret that, by the way. I still would have gone for Robertson.
Yeah, it's 50-50 in my mind.
I haven't got Salah or Mane, right? So
it's different. I've got Salah, so there we go. Leon Hobson, how are you doing, Leon? Pay per view is going to continue, and another game moved to Friday night alongside Saints and Newcastle? ? Well, we've talked about it. It's possible, but it's a 50-50 at the moment.
There were 3 fixtures that are possible. The one that will cause you a mare, well, for many people, is obviously if it ends up being Brighton-Burnley, a lot of people are still going to be in trouble, right? With no coverage. Those who might be, a lot of us have got Lamptey, maybe. Perhaps Ben White, Maupay. You might have some coverage, but you might have none. Palace Leeds would be okay. And West Ham Fulham, if Antonio's out, is going to be a problem for everybody.
It certainly will.
Then what do you do? Because at that stage, would you go, right, would I go Ings or Adams? Or do you start thinking, I'll take a chance on Jared Bowen? Could we have any clues on Ben Rama being an unbelievable differential?
He's 7.9 in this game.
Talking of which, do you know what Che Adams, and it doesn't matter at the moment in terms of ownership in the top 1,000, but do you know what...
In the top 1,000?
Che Adams' ownership in the top 1,000
I'm going to go for 0.
It is literally 0.
I can't imagine anyone else owning him in the top 1,000.
No, it is literally 0. His ownership overall, I know it's under 1%. It is, in your own time, Sky app, 0.64% owned overall. Not often you can get a differential captain who might nearly be the best choice.
Yep. Shout out to Mikey U, who also asked a similar question. Who would be a worthy Antonio replacement if confirmed out? Well, we've been through that. Phantomantle, why is it important to hold transfers versus using, say, 1 per week if you're always getting an extra game, particularly with all of these game days, e.g. Jimenez, Ings after Friday? There is one word, captaincy. When you're moving your transfers, if you're getting 1 extra game, that's one thing. If you're getting 1 extra game and the captaincy on top of that, then you're effectively getting 2 games. And as the season progresses, quite often you can get 3-for-1s and 2-for-1s, where the one fixture that the person you're moving on is a fixture you wouldn't want to play anyway. Like you just mentioned with Ings and Salah, you might be missing a Salah fixture versus Man City, and Ings is getting 3 fixtures in. So basically, there you go. If you can captain a player, you're getting double the value.
It's the holding back as well, so you can take bigger advantages of when there are clear runs. So we saw teams in the January period that had like 5, 6 and more Liverpool players in it.
Yeah.
When they had 3 games over everybody else's 1, basically. and in some cases none. And
yeah, there were teams at the time with like 4, 5, 6 Liverpool players.
Exactly.
You and me didn't jump on that, but that was our inexperience.
I think we still had about 3, right?
Yeah,
everybody was like getting as many as you can, basically. And there were some who'd identified. It was basically 6 over 3 from the end of December, basically, and there were some that had identified that and were just filling their team with as many Liverpool as they can. So that's one reason. Certainty. It's okay. I think in this game, as opposed to FPL, you don't have to worry about losing value or missing out on someone's value increasing. So you can certainly have a lot more patience in this week. You wouldn't suddenly look at James Rodriguez as long as he's past fit for the weekend and think, oh, I want to take him out, because Everton have had a dodgy performance at Southampton. I wouldn't think, oh, Jack Grealish's captaincy's gone, that's a priority to move out for me. I'd think, well, what I saw in Villa in the previous 4 fixtures was pretty good, actually. So he can stay there at the moment. So in this game, you do tend to have a little bit more patience, and it is about gaining numbers of fixtures where you can.
Yep. A good question here from Alex Turner for 2 players that we've not mentioned as potential Antonio replacements. Could ASM or Zaha be a reasonable Sky pick to replace Antonio to maintain my budget and structure? So yeah, if you didn't want to move that money forward or backwards into your defence or attack, Saint-Maximin for me is no-go. I just think too erratic with Newcastle. I don't think I'd enjoy necessarily owning him. Zaha, on the other hand, if you go back to 2 games ago, 1 shot on target, which is the penalty, and nothing else. You're not getting any shot tiers or anything else like that off the guy. Having said that, this week he did much better. I don't know what his score was this week in terms of points for Zaha, but they've got a decent run. He's not a bad shout, perhaps, Zaha.
Well, of course, he's not a bad shout. He's the highest scoring midfielder in the game at the moment. 55 points. His score at the weekend, he's 8.9 million. His score at the weekend was 17 points. Goal, assist, shot tier 2, obviously man of the match. He's obviously skewed a little bit by having 2 mass returns in there. The 19 points against Manchester United in match week 2 as well. If you can go to Wilfried Zaha, if you can go to James Rodriguez, these guys priced slightly higher, I don't have a problem with it. I'd like to shout out a few midfielders that are cheaper as potential alternatives. Jared Bowen is 0.1 cheaper than Antonio. It might be the easy fix for you if West Ham Fulham turns out to be that Friday night. You're flinching your face for the benefit of those on the audio.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, when you take Antonio out, you're taking quite an integral part of that West Ham attack out.
Yeah.
Bowen without Antonio.
You're playing Fulham and he might be the best captaincy.
Yeah, a Bowen without Antonio, I don't think is the same potential opportunity. So I would probably I wouldn't do it myself, put it that way. But okay. I don't know if that's any blessing or not to that transfer, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. Elder Costa is 7.6 million. His numbers also skewed somewhat though by that more than half of his points came against Fulham in match week 2. This is why you should consider Jared Bowen.
This is why we should just target anyone playing Fulham, is it?
Same position as Helder Costa. Well, it might be. If West Ham does turn out to be 5:30 or 6 p.m. on a Friday, you can't say that a West Ham asset isn't suddenly the best captaincy option. Well, you know Newcastle can be stubborn. You've seen that at Wolves. You've seen that at Tottenham. They were stubborn against Manchester United for a long period of the game, right before losing.
If I knew Ben Rama was going to play against Fulham, start against Fulham, I'd probably buy him over Bowen. But that's the fan in me, let's be honest. That's the fan in me wanting to see the debut boy come in and do bits.
Tom Kearney is 7.7 million. 13-pointer at the weekend. He's hitting passing tier 2 nearly every game. He's hit passing tier 2 in 5 of Fulham's 6 games. However, I would rather save 1.2 million and take a chance on Lookman if I was to look down that route. Here's an interesting name, right? You're going to laugh when I say this. Andros Townsend. 7.3 million. Why are you laughing at the back? 7.3 million.
It was more shock than laughter, I'll be honest with you.
He's on 33 points, which, by the way, is 1 more than Jared Bowen so far this season. 1 less than Jorginho, who's had all these penalties. 2 less than Helder Costa. And you start going, and it's also 2 more than Harvey Barnes. It's also 2 more than Tom Kearney. He's like, hang on, where's Andros Townsend got these points from? At the weekend, he had more tackles won than any player in any game this season. So, I had a look back. Match week 1, 5-pointer against Southampton, got an assist. Match 2 against Manchester United, he scored. Match week 3 against Everton, tackle tier 2. Match week 5 against Brighton, tackle tier 2. Match week 6 against Fulham, tackle tier 2. He's 7.3 million.
It's a bit of consistency there. There's no like you mentioned with was it Helder Costa or whoever, or Zaha had a couple of big hauls. His is more consistency.
Yes,
which I prefer in my cheaper players.
One fear with Townsend would be if they want to change that team and decide perhaps to integrate Eze into the team at the moment, that he might even go and play on the right. Townsend would possibly be the fall guy. But looking online and doing a bit of research last night, there was a lot of love for Andros Townsend's performance in the last 2 fixtures from Crystal Palace fans. They'll be the guys in the know best, right? So at the moment, he's working hard. He's an unusual one that's picking up tackle tiers, and he's staying in the team. He's 7.3 million. He obviously does offer an attacking threat. At the weekend, it was his cross when Wilfried Zaha had a free header in the box and put it wide. Suddenly you're looking at an 8-pointer there. These become decent returns. Would I ever buy Andros Townsend for Sky? I don't think so. But it might fix you a problem, particularly if, for some reason, you haven't got Wolves Newcastle coverage. You're sitting there with Antonio in your team and you can't get somewhere else. I'm telling you, he wouldn't be the best shout. And like I said, Palace Newcastle might be one in a few weeks that comes around and becomes a new problem.
A couple more questions here, James. We're covering off a wide number of options, all in the same talking points here. But you've got Ron, Mints at Sky FF, and Fish FPL that have 2 similar kind of sort of questions. For Ron, the original plan was Zaha to KDB after Friday. Shall I stick to my plan or find an alternative route to KDB given Zaha's great form and fixtures? And you've also got Fish FPO similar to you. Was set on Jimenez to KDB, but with VVD's injury it moved to Diaz. So now has City coverage. Is the unthinkable possible and not going with KDB an option? I would bring in Ings most likely after the Wolves next game.
It's absolutely, because of what I said, it's absolutely okay to go without KDB at the moment. Do I expect him to haul against Sheffield United at the weekend? No.
Well, the one thing you did mention earlier is that we have the advantage of the team news. So, I mean, if you know that he's not in the starting lineup, then you can really swerve it if you want to.
Knowing Kevin De Bruyne is going to start for Manchester City is, generally speaking, going to be enough for me to put the armband on him.
2 assists yesterday in the Champions League against Marseille.
We know what he's capable of. Two assists in a Premier League game is probably going to equal man of the match for him as well. And you from that Wolves fixture, what in match week 2, what the capability of the guy is. It's always the capability of De Bruyne, and it's actually knowing that he's as capable of getting the mass haul away to Liverpool as he is at home to Fulham. In an odd way, at least you know he's going to play away to Liverpool if he's fit, for example, as opposed to the other games. Can you go with Sheffield United, Liverpool, Tottenham as the next 3 fixtures? Yeah, I think absolutely, definitely you can.
I restarted the camera 7 minutes too late, James. Oh well. 7
minutes and no video on YouTube.
You got our beautiful
kids.
Faces back.
I didn't realise we've been talking that long,
Me neither. We went from like 25 minutes to 37 all of a sudden.
If you've got Diaz as well, I can understand even more so than not going without. He wouldn't be the worst captain shout, by the way. If you know these City guys are going to play defensively this week, they probably will hit passing tiers.
Yeah. Tom Ford, first time playing Sky. Welcome to the game. Roughly, what do you think is the minimum number of transfers you should be looking to have left at Christmas?
Because of the circumstances, so unpredictable to say. We haven't even got a roadmap of the fixtures to know, right? It's all dependent on how many problems arise through. I didn't intend to sell Van Dijk. I didn't intend to sell Antonio. These 2 things were never part of my plan. But if Antonio's injured for, I don't know. I know there's another question someone asked.
This is Miss Ray, and it's the next question. How many games would Antonio have to be confirmed out for you to transfer him?
Fulham. If he's out for Fulham, he's going.
Right.
Just get on with it and move it on.
That's 2 weeks, basically.
Yeah. I'm not interested. If he's going to miss that Fulham fixture, I'm not interested.
And the international break is after the Fulham fixture.
Yes.
So when you have that gap, quite often players don't get risked in a game because it just gives them that full 3 to 4 weeks recovery. History of muscle injuries.
Do they need to risk him? Do they need to risk him against Fulham as well?
Yeah,
it's part of the point, isn't it?
It's a difficult one with Antonio. When he gets muscle injuries, they can reoccur. I think if I had still had 30 odd by the end of the year, I'd be happy enough. So 30 is a fair number.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a drama if it's less, by the way. This year, because of the way, the amount of, if you look further afield into sort of January, February and stuff, there's a lot of midweek Premier League fixtures, like in January and February and stuff, which we're not used to, right? We're used to League Cup semi-final 2 legs, FA Cup third, fourth round replays. Basically, every midweek over that period, once you get beyond the League Cup semis, which I think is the first midweek of January, it's like weekend, midweek. Guess what? During this period as well, teams who are playing Sunday ain't going to play Tuesday. They're going to play Wednesday, Thursday. These 3-for-1 games over that period are going to be harder to find than actually what they might be now. Bear that in mind. So, you know, if you end up, you get to Christmas and you used 15, as long as they're the right transfers, I don't have a mass issue with that. I would feel that I'm happier to use more pre-Christmas than I did this time last year, where admittedly I waited too long on a lot of things. But I'm happy right now not to be worried about how many transfers I'm making. If a move needs to be made, I'm going to make it.
Yeah. A few more that we're going to get through, James. We'll keep this going. If it ends up being longer, so be it. There's a number that we have already answered. Shout out to Benno Babes FF.
Hello, Benno.
Who we've answered this question. I've got Kane and Son. Could Son actually be the better pick? Well, we did talk about that earlier. Luke, FF Scout. Luke, hope you're keeping well.
Hello, Luke.
Harvey Barnes, keep or bin?
If you got him, I'd captain him Monday.
I mean, if he's your best option,
I think that's the solution, isn't it? So, yeah, keep. I don't think that's a decision to make till after Monday. Then they've got a couple more difficult fixtures. It depends what the layout for them is. They'll obviously play on the Sunday as well in match week 8 because of Europe. I think it might even be one of the selected TV games. In any case, Leicester. Who do they have? They have Wolves. Yeah, it's to 2:00 on the Sunday. There's not great escape options. Oddly enough, what you might find the best escape is if they play Liverpool on the Saturday in match week 8. You might find there's good gains then. But guess what? Then they walk into Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton are the 3 fixtures afterwards. No, I'd stick it out with Harvey Barnes at the moment. Unless you've got serious intention to add Vardy for that period that I've mentioned, for example. Yep.
And a shout out to FPL Zombie. With short-term injuries starting to appear in most teams, Antonio, KDB, etc. Is holding a player and playing with 10 damaging, or is it worth using a transfer even for 1 or 2 games? I think the thing is that we always say, what's the next transfer? If you're going to get a player in for Antonio, for example, but then you don't know where you're going after that, I would be a little bit more concerned because you're just making a transfer to fix a problem rather than having a slightly longer term strategy around it. There's nothing wrong with making transfers now to solve these problems. Like we talked about Antonio being out for 2 games, but then what? So just look a little bit further ahead in terms of 3 or 4 games. And where do you see yourself going once that problem is solved? Or if you're happy to keep that player for the long term. For me, a Sterling to De Bruyne, for example, it's a simple, easy move. And I don't care where I'm going from De Bruyne because I'm going to keep him forever. But for others, it may be a case of where's the next transfer.
Cheap defender, just while I remember it, and because we were just speaking about Leicester, to throw into your thoughts as well for that period from when they play Fulham, which is either going to be a Sunday or Monday from match week 9, which is a good point to jump onto them. How much did we enjoy having s.2 at 6.2 million last year? Wesley Fofana with s.2's injury is absolutely locked in that team at the moment, 6.1.
And playing well.
Really interesting.
Any tears?
Nothing as yet, but 2 challenging fixtures considering they've obviously played Arsenal and Aston Villa. But that might come back around. So he's one that's on my radar for when we hit sort of match week 9-10. I think it's match week 10 they play Fulham, isn't it?
FPL Heavyweight and Sky FF, thank you for your questions. The one I'm going to choose is, how long do I hold Patrick Van Aanholt? The gamble isn't paying off and I'm reluctant to make another defender transfer, but might need to if he continues to not play. Well, he did come on. Look, he's coming back from injury and he did come on. So he's going to get back into that team, is my opinion. So I would just hold. For you?
Well, we had this question for Rob Pick last week, didn't we? And we said, give it till the Wolves game. If he doesn't play against Wolves at the weekend, then you can smell the immediate gains to think, yeah, great. The issue is, and this is one of the reasons I went for Gator, following Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, Newcastle, West Brom, Palace's next 4 before they head into mid-December. And with Palace, you can see clean sheets in them games, can't you? I know it's frustrating at the moment for those who've got Gator with the late goals they've conceded recently, but actually, yeah, you can see them.
The FPL drug. This is a very easy question for me to answer. I don't know about you. What's more important, having Ings for the Saints fixture on the Friday or the return of Kevin De Bruyne? I would prioritise Kevin De Bruyne here. And the reason being, it's because of he can score points in so many different ways. Even if he doesn't get a goal or an assist, he might pick up a tackle tier and a passing tier and a bonus tier. And if he's playing, I'll put the armband on him, and I may not get an attacking return, and I may still pick up 20 points. You know, it's mental, that.
The thing is, though, for those who've got Salah, and it's worth saying, there is an image of him hobbling down the tunnel last night. He picked up a whack right at the end of that game, and I think it was just him hobbling off a bit of an impact. He still took the penalty in injury time as well, so I don't expect an issue. But if as long as Salah's given the okay for Saturday, you're probably captaining Salah Saturday, aren't you?
Yeah,
against West Ham.
No, I'm captaining Sterling, but
you got both.
Yeah.
Oh, you go Sterling, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to captain Salah against my own team.
Fucking madman.
Nah.
Captain Salah, mate. Listen, you know what you get from Sheffield United. There's more unpredictability with West Ham. But point being, for many others in that situation, I think we'll go, put it this way, perhaps haven't got Manchester City coverage. So Salah's got you covered. It doesn't become like an essential or a needy requirement to suddenly go straight to him. For me, without Salah, etc., I'm going to go Jimenez to De Bruyne and stick the armband straight on him. So it's more of a priority for me. I think for the majority, you might even find that the immediate better coverage is the Southampton boys.
Tom Campbell, regularly on owners, do you reckon it's worth a move, or will he still be value over the course of a season?
I don't know if a Tottenham defender is going to be value for you, Tom. There's been nothing in terms of tiering for Sergio Reguilon yet, which is interesting. That obviously includes the fact he played nearly the whole game, or maybe even the whole game. He moved to wide left midfield at Manchester United in match week 4. I think he played the whole game. It was a lot of goals. That's all I remember from that game. He's not going to pick up many passing tiers. He is going to get back in this team. Absolutely convinced he'll play on Sunday against Brighton, because he won't want Davis against Lamptey. I mentioned this on Planet FPL podcast yesterday. So Reguilon will come back into the team. He's definitely first choice over Davis. It was something very specific for Burnley, Tom. So I wouldn't worry about that. If that's your Tottenham coverage, sweet as, carry on. But yeah, Harry and Son these next 2 games. I struggle to help here because I'm not going to be owning a Spurs defender in many I think
games
for me, these 2 fixtures are massive for Tottenham and my Sky season. Genuinely huge. If the 2 of them can do the business, and knowing that I'm almost definitely coming one afterwards, regardless.
Yeah. Ian Parrin says, are you expecting Friday and Monday games every weekend that follows European midweek matches? If so, does it change your plans in terms of club coverage and or transfer use? And has Suj got this covered in his Baldrick style cunning plan? Of course I have, Ian. Are you expecting Friday and Monday games? I mean, we until and when we're getting inside stadiums and they're spreading the fixtures out, obviously we will get more televised games, and they need to find the slots for them.
Yeah. So
I think it's driven as much by having to get all the games on TV than it is as well.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the TV. Let me give you the sort of thing will put the fear of God into you, and this is part why I mentioned the Palace Newcastle game, which is in match week 10. As it stands now, on what we know so far, there are only 2 games that can go on a Friday in match week 10. They are Crystal Palace versus Newcastle and West Brom versus Sheffield United. Now, these ones feel different to the prospect of Southampton, I think, and it would be okay to skip.
Yeah, exactly.
Understand the difference. But in Newcastle's case, if suddenly you end up, and we know on Friday, for example, that it's going to be single game day against Southampton, single game day against Crystal Palace, we know they've got 2 captaincies of a Newcastle potentially in the next 3 game weeks. Do we then look at that and reconsider it? And then, especially again, if it's a Friday again in match week 10, knowing that you come straight off the next day or on the Sunday to whatever you want to. So it might be that come Friday, we have to look again and consider Callum Wilson, Alan St. Maximin, one of the defensive guys. maybe even if you're looking to come off Patricio, for example, you might even think, well, I'll take Newcastle for the weekend fixture, the 2 Fridays, the one in between, and then move that on again. So go Patricio, Darlow, and then move on to the keeper you want. The thing with them keepers is clean sheets 9 points, right?
Yep.
If you get the save tiers on top, and Newcastle face more shots than anybody else, that depends how you view it. Do you think, oh, he's save tiers as well, or because the amount of shots they concede, is he going to concede?
See the goal.
Plus, he's also a bit ropey. I mean, for example, he should have saved him as his shot on Sunday, right?
Plus, we don't know about Dubravka and when he may potentially be back.
I would think probably not by that point, but yes, you're right to probably have a second look at that. Newcastle players are not going to pick up tiers. That's one key point of them.
Yeah. And in terms of a wider strategy, I am clearly, like, say Antonio was injured, I am looking at the best replacement, and I am factoring in from a club where I don't already have a player. So it would come into my thoughts. I already own a Brighton asset, for example. I already have an Aston Villa asset. I already have an Everton asset. So I'm ruling out some of the assets from those clubs that might be the best player, just to give myself as broad a spread as I possibly can. I don't have any Arsenal coverage right now, for example, with Gabriel and stuff.
The worst case scenario for the Friday in match week 11, as it would stand, would be West Brom against Palace.
For you?
For anybody. It wouldn't be for me because I've got
Gator.
Exactly. So it wouldn't be a problem. This is part why I picked. I mean, for those who got Zaha, again, was it Luke asked the question or someone else?
No, Luke was asking about Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, but someone asked about Zaha.
They certainly did.
Him. Do you know what? Some of these might rock up. There's a little bit of regret for me not going Pope, actually, rather than Gator, because Zaha is an option. And I wanted a goalkeeper from a team that I didn't want to consider their options. I just felt Zaha was going to frustrate me. Plus, he's more expensive than James, Barnes, Grealish, Antonio, all these guys. So I didn't think it would ever be of interest. I'm not going to move it about now. But there's a little bit of regret for me from that perspective that I didn't go for Pope, actually.
And a last couple of questions, which we've already answered. We'll give them a shout out. Auto Reclose, is it a good strategy to make a goalkeeper transfer to close off captaincy every time we get thrown a game like Southampton versus Newcastle, especially if you're happy with the outfield players? McCarthy, for me, did come up in my mind as a decent shout. The thing is, I look at Patricio and I just think he's so set and forget.
Well, the thing with Wolves...
So reliable, Wolves.
And this is part why I had the exit strategy on Jimenez. Is what follows for Wolves following Palace. Leicester, Southampton, Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea, Burnley, Tottenham, Manchester United are Wolves' fixtures for the rest of the year. It's not brilliant. That's why I wanted Jimenez, free captaincies and move on. So Patricio to McCarthy and then on again. Yeah, do you know what? I've heard worse ideas. It might be that then that's Gator. Imagine if Palace had them 2 Fridays in a row.
Yeah.
Like it felt like Pope had them periods. Yeah, you could jump like that. There's worse ways of covering the captaincy than that, but you ain't always going to get the clean sheet, by the way. It's often going to be a 2-pointer and becomes 4 and then not a nothing. By the way, it will sound obvious to most people, but not everybody. The move for Southampton is Sunday. If you're going Southampton, it is this week. Do it Sunday.
Yeah.
For Villa.
To get the extra fixture.
That's what you should be doing.
There we go, James. The last shout out for the questions goes to Rob Pick, who was asking about replacements for Antonio as well in that bracket. If we haven't talked enough about that in this episode, then I think we have covered it basically.
I think most people will be able to get signed ways. Like, I mean, you might even consider, it was Luke who mentioned Harvey Barnes, right? He might be one where you're in a position you think, well, he's at the best captaincy coverage for Monday, for example. For me and my solution, because I'm moving on Jimenez, it opens up the forward spot for Che Adams for me. Is probably where I'm going to go. I think the best choice at the same value in and around that might be Gabriel. Nearly everybody's going to be able to make that move.
Yeah.
Arsenal will make you nervous, but this fella's he's on a rate of 5 points per game now. You got to take that seriously when he's picking up tier 2 against Man City and Leicester. You have to take that seriously.
Indeed. Sky players, thank you for joining us for this episode. A good rundown, and I have to say, James, I do feel much more reassured than I did at the start of the episode.
Good boy.
I felt a little bit more meh frustrated, I would say. I hope you're all enjoying the game. Don't forget, of course, that you can make your deadline transfers as close to kick-off as you want, because we can make them after the teams have been announced. Don't leave it to the last minute, though, of course. We'll be back at you next week.
Yeah, do and don't. Like, don't get Kevin De Bruyne until you've seen he's in at least the squad on Saturday morning.
Do join us next week for another rundown. You never know, we might have some more information by then, with the likes of Antonio's injury, with the likes of more fixtures and all that kind of stuff. Other than that, it just leaves me to say stay safe wherever you are, because COVID is on the rise. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everyone. Good luck. Cue music, please, man child.